Hey, it's left past 10.
Hello?
Literally.
Hey.
It's literally past 10. How's it going?
What is this horse shit? What's going on here?
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, you
Hold
got
on.
what is that? Wait. Wait. Okay. Now do it. Do it. Wait. Oh, I fucked up. Wait, okay. Wait, no,
I
do it again.
I
Do it
have
again.
to like just
Oh fuck. Okay. Let's try again.
hold on.
One more time.
Ready?
Okay.
Ready?
Fuck you.
Oh, that was pretty good. I don't know. I thought that was good. See,
We'll
that's what
work
we
that
call
out in
production
post.
value. Yeah.
Yeah.
Antonio's back. What's going on, Antonio? Thanks for hanging.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm happy to be back.
Are
And
you on or off of the substances that you were on last time?
I am off of my
oh, yeah.
meds. I have them still like for backup, but hopefully I get my cast off tomorrow. So
Cool. Oh, that'd be great.
Excellent.
yeah.
Um, so Sandy is on the road abroad, scheduled not to be here. We miss
Sandy
her
is
already.
abroad. Could you repeat yourself for a moment just so I understand what I just heard?
One word, single word, abroad.
Okay. All right.
Elsewhere, not here tonight. As planned, as scheduled. I miss her already. I love hanging out. I love hanging out with Sandy. I think that's one of my favorite aspects of this show is hanging out with you guys, especially Sandy. And Jake's not here, but that's okay. It's not scheduled that he's not here, but that's as much grief as I'm going to give him. I know that's more your thing, right, Andrea?
Well,
Giving people
I would
shit.
give him some grief, but I think we have to talk about how Henry Kissinger is dead instead. So
Much
I
more
think Jake gets
important.
a free pass here.
Check out
We
some of
can
these
deal with Jake
headlines.
later. You know.
Here, let me read a headline or two. I hate when this happens because it's like there's no honesty. All right. BBC, former US Secretary of State Henry Kissinger dies at 100. Blah. That's not even interesting. Henry
I mean, that's a
Kissinger,
fact.
secretary to Richard Nixon, dies at 100. That's the Guardian.
There
Um,
you go. They're just
here,
saying what needs to be said.
New York
Mm.
Times, Henry Kissinger, who shaped US Cold War history, dies at 100. They
He
should
did
say,
shape a lot of things. How did he
yeah.
shape it? We don't really know, but he did shape it. That's what we do know.
Politico says Henry Kissinger, America's most famous diplomat, dies at 100.
Now that one I'm
It's
not
just
sure is true. I don't know if most
here's
people know Henry Kissinger and nowadays.
the Rolling Stone magazine had the best. Henry Kissinger, war criminal beloved by America's ruling class, finally dies. That's what I'm talking about.
That's
Yeah.
good.
I, I would like to see one like that says Kissinger finally dies. How did he not die sooner? Anyway, he's dead. Yay. You know, something like give me those
Yeah. I,
vibes.
I
You know what I
was
mean?
I was thinking of one as you were talking. I was thinking of Doctor of Death, a century of carnage, like meets his own doom now, you know.
There you go.
Yeah. I did some storyboards for a movie script this past year and I had to draw Kissinger a lot. And I was like, ugh,
Jeez.
it yeah, it's tough. I don't like that guy. But whatever. So tell us how do you honestly feel about this, Andrea? Like if you had to write your own headline,
Um,
what would you say?
I think I would probably have it so you'd have a thumbnail, right? And it's like Henry Kissinger photoshopped with like the scythe of the Grim Reaper. Like and his like blood everywhere and he's got like right, so that would be the thumbnail. And then the header would be dead all caps period.
That's
Hmm.
good. Uh I like that you're already art directing the visuals.
Yeah.
It's part
That's
of the whole
smart.
thing.
That's smart. I what do you think tomorrow's news is going to be like?
If I had to guess, it probably won't be too dissimilar from when we watched John McCain pass. Um, Usually, when American statesmen pass, there isn't a lot of criticism, at least by the mainstream media, about their life or their legacy, kind of regardless of what that life and legacy ultimately is comprised of. So I think what we're going to see is much of what we saw in life. Um, a type of chicanery around the facts and an lionization of his record and his legacy, particularly in the question. I hope it. I hope that we have some decency, but I don't know. I will just say this: I hadn't seen Condoleezza Rice and Hillary Clinton, certainly not in the same room for a long time, and Jon Stewart got them together. There's some part of me that was saying, after 20 years of carnage in the post 9/11 war, surely now our two first female secretaries of state would be in reverse. They would be apologetic. They would at least be somewhat or more. No, both of them, both the Democrat and the Republican, were carrying the line. And of course, Hillary praised Kissinger. So that's what I suspect we'll see a
What was
lot.
that fucking thing that Bernie said at the debate in 2016? Like, I am proud to say Kissinger is not my friend or whatever. That was really good.
Oh yeah, yeah. Because
Did
she
you
was
say, by the way,
praising him.
earlier, did you say chicanery? Is that what I heard?
Yeah, that was me.
That's a good word.
Yeah.
What's that word mean?
Just a bunch of
Yeah,
nonsense.
yeah.
And that's
Um,
really, I mean, I don't want to, I am surprised at what we can get away with as Americans and what little international um, critique we find ourselves faced with. And it really doesn't matter who, when, or why.
yeah, there's a lot of like revisions of history that happen in real time, and it doesn't even take that long. Like Ellen DeGeneres at a baseball game with George W. Bush, and she's like, "Well, we're friends. Aren't we supposed to be friends with people we disagree with?" And I'm like, I don't know. You could be friends with whoever you want. That sort of falls under the category of it's a big club and you ain't in it, or we aren't in it, or whatever. But I do think that people, you know, George W. Bush will die and there'll be a huge funeral and everyone's going to be expected to be there, right? I think they're going to do that for Kissinger.
Oh,
Are
sure,
you,
sure,
are,
sure. Goodness.
Andrea, are you pretending to be muted or are you muted?
What?
Hmm. I thought you were talking without saying anything. Do you
What?
think there's going to be a massive funeral for Kissinger? And is that
Me?
taxpayers' expense? Yeah. What do you think? Is
Oh,
that
yeah.
our
I mean,
taxpayers
definitely. They're
paying for
gonna
that
like
crap?
lie him in state or some fucking shit.
Oh, you think it's gonna be like the Queen, where people line up for days to spit on him, or I mean, see him?
Well, I
Whatever.
don't know about that. That's maybe like 10 hours. Maybe afternoon, possibly. I'm not really sure.
Let me ask you this: do you have any sort of like moral obligation to have respect for the dead?
No, hell no. I want to give a fun fact. When George H.W. Bush died, I was living in D.C. at the time, and I was protesting at his funeral. Like when they were bringing the casket into the fucking thing or whatever the fuck. I was out
Oh,
there giving double middle fingers and screaming "fuck you, bitch" at the funeral. So,
are you on camera doing
personally,
that?
I don't know. I never looked. I might be somewhere. When I was in D.C., I was caught on
C-SPAN.
camera many times. So,
Oh, really?
yeah.
Yeah, I know Donald Trump looked you right in the eye, right?
No, that
Was it
was
Trump?
Bolsonaro.
Oh, Boston. Same thing.
Yeah.
Not much
Yeah,
difference.
I feel like Bolsonaro is probably scarier.
Yeah. Every now and then I think to myself, all right, they're gone. Let's not talk about it. Let it go. We can all get past it now. But you want people to remember the horrible things that some of these guys did, right? You don't want people to revise the history. And they're going to start revising history tonight. And then when they have the big funeral, there's all these people who are going to see that and go, "Oh wow, he must have been really well respected and important and beloved." And
Yeah,
it's not
I as a
accurate.
historian, I guess I take a little bit of a different view. Um, I don't think, and maybe this is my prejudice, but I don't really think anything's off the table, so to speak. Certainly not the record of a political official, certainly one of the most consequential empires in all of human material wealth history, and one who has such a bloody record, his involvement in Indochina and around the world. So and also I don't think there's a moral question there, at least not on the part of, respecting Kissinger as an individual. I mean, he chose those decisions throughout the history of his life, that century. Um, and it is for us, those who have to live in the wake of his policy and the students of his policy. It is for us to judge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fuck that
No,
guy.
well said. Yeah. In short, fuck that guy. I mean that's very well said. Um, and it's times like this where I just want to draw messed up pictures of them and make cartoons making fun of them and the way people are going to cry about it. I want to make fun of
Could you
them.
draw a
You know what I
picture of
mean?
me with like a double barrel shotgun blowing his brains out?
Oh my
People
god.
people have asked me to draw similar things to that and I'm like, "No." But
Oh my goodness.
one time I was collaborating an idea with a prominent lefty YouTuber and I won't say who. And we were coming up with the idea and we both said that's too hardcore. We were going to make fun of somebody in a comic. They were going to write it and I was going to draw it. And we both came to the conclusion this isn't how we want to be represented. This is too hardcore. People aren't going to get it. Within an hour, somebody else had done it and it was like
Yeah.
well received by millions of people. And I was
Ah.
okay.
Yep, there you
Well,
go.
I'm still glad I didn't do it because I don't want to be known because then you'd be known for that one thing that you were on the fence about doing versus all the other things I've done. That's what I want to be known for, not the one thing that I kind of didn't want to do but went ahead with. You know what I mean? So it feels clickbaity. But
Mm.
but then here we have a historian who can give us accurate takes and perspectives and then we have Max the dog that can say, "You know what? Nothing beats a dog toy."
He does. Holy shit.
Does Max have a
Dragging the
bedtime?
corpse. He was sleeping until I started this show.
Ah,
That's usually how it goes.
Yeah,
my
now that
dog
I'm
has a
talking.
bedtime. My dog goes to bed. She's like, "I'll see you guys tomorrow." It's so funny. It's really funny. She like looks at me like, "Is it time?" Because she can't go up and down stairs by herself. She's a tripod, and so I'm always like, "Ah, "Okay, I'll take you up there," and she runs to bed. It's funny.
So how do you pick the dog up? Like this?
No, like I don't want her. Okay, so it might be kind of silly, but I don't want her to have a complex about needing to be picked up. So
Right.
always make it
Okay.
like I'm snuggling. So I always pick her up like I'm snuggling, and I just happen to be going up the stairs at the same time. She knows I'm taking her upstairs, but it feels more like our snuggle time rather than pick me up because I'm, 3-legged. It's just it helps me feel like I'm making her feel better. That's probably not true. Maybe it is. I don't know. And she gets a treat when I put her down. So
Yeah,
this is
that's
how
how
I
you get
train
him.
my dogs. I train them with
Look
these
at
really
this.
tiny treats. They're
Look at
training
this
treats.
brutal attack going on this duck. Can you see this duck?
Yeah.
Max, why are you killing ducks?
Name that duck Kissinger the duck. But
Uh,
you can train elephants with raisins. Did you know this?
Sure,
A
yeah.
reward is a
uh,
reward. So I started training my dogs with really small treats. They're not gonna it's not gonna mess up their diet or their weight or anything like that.
Yeah, I
But
always
it's
get
still
these
like,
treats and then just like break
wow.
them into like
Yeah.
thirds or quarters, you know?
Yeah, and then you get like 10 treats a day equal 2. But anyway.
It's like math or something, you know?
Well, I did have one other thing I wanted to kind of throw out there as a possible discussion topic. Unless you want to keep talking about old Henry.
Nah, well, he's
Anything
not
else to
old
add?
anymore.
Just trying to do past tense. You got anything else you want to add about Jerky
um,
Kissinger the duck?
No. Fuck that bitch.
That's a good way to close it
yeah.
out. Okay, so I was thinking, because I'm always asking my interview guests about electoral politics and stuff like that, and so I always have some framing around the fact that the majority of the country doesn't vote, right?
Hmm.
Um, and so I
I have
was,
hot
you
takes on
know,
this one, but keep going.
yeah, so I was just kind of dwelling on that, and it occurred to me, if the whole country voted, it wouldn't work. The system would crash. That we're not outfitted for this. The system is designed like democracy, and participating in democracy and voting in this country is designed around the fact that nobody does it, or that as few people do it as possible, and they can't even get that right. There's long lines. You know how they say we need a holiday? And I, when I worked in an office, like a few people would leave to vote. If it was everyone, you'd have essentially like a general strike. Like the whole thing would collapse. Nobody would be at work.
Well,
It would
that's why
take
like voting
it
on
would take
one day
weeks
is
to
just
do
fucking
it.
stupid.
It would end up being like vaccinations, where if you're 40 to 50 years old and your name starts with an S, you go on Thursday or something like that, right? But like they have all the rules where, oh, you're not allowed to give bottled water to people in line at a poll. Oh, I'm sorry, you've been in line for 9 hours. We ran out of ballots. We were talking about that recently on this show. Um, there's no standardization. It would be a nightmare. It would crash. The system would not work. Sometimes it takes weeks to count votes for one election. Just imagine if, okay, I mean, let's say you're automatically registered to vote when you're 18, right? In theory, more people would vote. Let's say there's a holiday or some sort of system for you being able to get paid to go do it, right? Okay, more people would vote. If any more people voted than there are now, even a little bit, this whole thing would come crashing down. That's just what I think. I'm curious what you guys think. The one silver lining I can see is, I assume, I don't have any numbers, and I've never actually heard a report on this, but I assume the more people that got into voting, like there would be an exponential number of people who then ran for office, like more people. Like however many people vote, there's always going to be a percentage of people who are like, you know what, now that I've been voting for a while, I need to run for office. That people get into it, and then some people really get into it, right? So I think that would be cool, because you'd have a lot more people out there trying to achieve office, which that can't be bad as far as I'm concerned. But what would gerrymandering look like? Do you know what I mean? There would be whole industries. Like right now, we have people who design voting apparatus and like machines and stuff like that, and ballot boxes and whatever. Imagine the industries that would, or the industry that would spring up around it, right? Because it would become this massive thing. Would it affect TV shows, scheduling, sports? You know what I mean? Like, politicians would suddenly be taking different positions than they do. It would change everything if everyone in this country voted. My theory is that voting would become one of the most talked about and, attention grabbing things in our culture. But, I mean, and is there a country where everyone already votes and it's done successfully? I don't even know that. I
Well, they
just
have countries
assume
like
there is no
Australia
place.
does compulsory voting, and if you don't vote, you get fined. So it's like essentially you kind of get paid to vote, but like you get paid $0, and then if you don't vote, you get like paid negative $100 or some fucking shit. I personally think that like, if we could make voting as cool as like the Super Bowl, that's a good start.
But, like, just to now, are you just talking about presidential election or, like, all voting? Because the
Well, I
Super
don't
Bowl would be
consider there
happening
to
a
be
lot.
any difference. Like voting is voting. And like to me, I don't care like what the election is. Like
So anytime you vote, it would be like, "This is a big deal. Break out the nachos, call your friends," right?
Hmm.
yeah.
It's democracy. But am I crazy? Would it break the system, or is that could we manage? I don't think
Well,
we
if
manage
everyone
now.
started voting, like we had like any like let's say even just started, like we even had like 75% of the population who's eligible voting, it would probably destroy the system. If it's just random, if it's like everyone, if there's like a way for this for the system to even know that it's happening, theoretically, they would maybe possibly be able to keep up with it if they want to. And then like obviously the red states would just be like, oh, sorry, our fucking all our truck full of ballots just like, just blew up, spontaneously combusted. Sorry, no one can vote. Like that's what I would think would happen. But you know,
I lived in Boulder County in Colorado, and they had the best voting process I've ever been a part of, and they had it all documented online, step by step. They show you exactly how it worked, full transparency. It was it was near perfect, and that's the one that Trump and company used as the example. All of Fox News used as an example for it being rigged and not working. And they would say, "Look at Boulder. Look at how Boulder County does it. It's horrible. They have no idea what's going on." And I'm like, "That's a blatant lie. You can just go to the website and see exactly how it's done. It's great. And it's
wait, whoa,
mail
whoa,
in."
whoa, 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 whoa. Did you just imply that Donald Trump would lie?
No, well, everybody was lying, but using the one example that was easily disproved. And I know. But then I get to a place like, I'm in South Carolina now, and I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be a nightmare." It's not as good, but it wasn't bad. It
I
wasn't
was going to
bad.
say,
But
actually,
there's
in most states, most elections are uncontroversial. Um, the only time, I mean, there's always a couple. I mean, we have 50 states, and how many municipalities do we have? So, of course, there's always going to be some hiccups there. But most of what I've seen, let's say since 2016, has been mostly politicized. And I mean that in a very kind of colloquial sense that what are mostly minor discrepancies end up getting blown up just for political purposes. Now, there are legitimate political issues when it comes to counting votes and ballot registering, certainly with gerrymandering. Those are all legitimate concerns and are real. But I think what's important for people to understand, like this issue for voter fraud virtually doesn't exist in the United States um, for a lot of reasons that I think I won't have to go into here. But the biggest problem in the United States is election fraud. And that's usually on the behalf of the political parties against their own constituencies, believe it or not. And listen, I mean, the Democrats got a big taste of that. The guy who, or excuse me, Bernie Sanders on the Democratic side got a big taste of that. But the guy who I forget his name, but he just recently declared his nomination against Joe Biden in the presidency. Now he's getting a lot of that from the DNC. Um, So I don't know if more votes would necessarily break our system. As Andrea was saying, there are other countries that actually we have about 66% of voting average. There's other countries across the Eurozone that certainly have higher. Australia, obviously, with compulsory voting. I know France actually they mail everybody their ballots, and also with a lot of information on each of the candidates as well. So
That's what they did in Boulder. You would get a little book. You get your ballot in a book. Sometimes you get the book in advance, or you get like a preview of the book in advance, and they say, "Here's the top things we're voting on this time," right? But they would say, if you want to hear more about candidates for, judges or whatever, go to this website. We're more thorough online. Go here and check it out, right? And it was like, this is amazing. I can just sit here for a few hours and get this dialed, you know? Whereas a lot of people show up and they're like, "Who are these judges? I'm leaving this blank." I don't
but Matt,
and
you
I
also
mean,
got
I
to
don't know if it's a
realize
lot of people, but
we come from a history of anti-democracy here. And so this whole effort of getting people to vote has been an uphill battle in the United States. Now we use a lot of like flowery language to talk about our history. But I always like to remind people that before the Constitution was written actually even up until the Constitution was written in the United States, um, the black population only represented about 10 to 13% of the US, but only 25% of the population could vote. So the vast majorities of white people have been disenfranchised by the American system. And obviously, insofar, the vast majorities of Americans have been disenfranchised by the American system, right? So this has always been the fight for us is getting more people to vote and loosening the grip of our political constraints that are actually restricting the broader population from getting participatory in that manner.
Well, yeah,
why do
the
you think
Constitution doesn't even have, like, a right to vote. It's just, like, a bunch of amendments. You can't be restricted from voting if, there's just nothing that says, "Amendment, you have the right to vote." Like, can we just have that? Is that possible?
I wonder why parties like, Democrats are always like, "You wanna fix this problem? Vote." Well, how come they don't do more to get people to register to vote and to actually participate? It feels like
'Cause they
my
don't actually
perception is the
care.
government. I mean, I know they thrive off it being a low intensity democracy where these two parties can just fundraise based on the other one having a little bit more power every other year or whatever. I get it. It's garbage. But like, you can at least pretend that you want more people to vote, more people to participate, and at least give. I mean, is there any government funded or sponsored program to get people who don't vote to participate? Is there anything?
Probably. I think there's a couple.
I'm
Uh,
I'm
I
sure
mean,
they receive what will be pennies on the dollars compared to the budget. But I think what's important here is that in America our academics are very honest about the fact that they're very technocratic and they're mostly here to serve power. So they actually tell you what's going on. They actually tell you the game. If you read Crisis of Democracy, written in 1975, the American author for the American analysis was Samuel Huntington from Harvard, the political scientist there. And they're very forthright. Democracy is a threat to the government, it's a threat to our agenda. They were in fear of what they called an excess of democracy. There's too much democratization happening in the country. And we got to get this under control. It's putting too much pressure on business and it's putting too much pressure on quote unquote national interest. Now, of course, for Huntington, there's no difference between business and national interest, but nonetheless, he tried to distinguish those two. And the big problem was that it wasn't just voting. That was one part of what's called participatory democracy. They didn't want people getting involved in town councils. They didn't want people protesting. They didn't want the civil rights movement, the women's movement, the environment movement. They didn't want any of this. I mean, that's why you ended up getting Richard Nixon. I mean, we talk about it right now, but the EPA, people don't know this, is a Republican legacy. It's Richard Nixon's legacy. He didn't make it because he cared about the environment. That's the sort of political pressure that was on the government that day. And we've now been living the backlash against all that, trying to pacify the population.
Yeah, I always just get so riled up when I hear a politician say, elect me and we'll fix it. And I'm like, no, if you want to fix it, everyone needs to get involved. If everyone was involved and everyone took a greater stance, there would be that much more pressure that you're talking about, right? It's like right now, it's like, look at what the voters and people who participate in politics and writing to their congressman, look at what we've done with just those small numbers. What if it was everybody doing it? I just feel like it would be overwhelming to the point where they were like, okay, it crashed the system at first, but we got to fix it, and then things would get better. But I do think it would crash the system right off the bat. I don't think the United States is prepared for everyone to participate in democracy. And I think it's designed around, like we're saying, designed around the assumption that not everyone will. And I think that translates to they hope nobody does. And it'd be great if fewer people did, which is
Well, I would say it's not
that's the
just an
problem.
assumption that not everybody will participate. We have governments. I mean, let's just be honest. Both at at every level, at the municipal. I went to Appalachian State University. Our town had no problem taking the polls off of our college campus in an attempt to reduce collegiate participation in the elections. The state of North Carolina, we were just in the Supreme Court for gerrymandering. So there's no lack of uh, government involvement in actively limiting the civic participation in the democratic result. I mean, at every single level, municipal, state, city, and of course the federal.
Yeah, I do. I mean, there's just I don't know. It's all crooked, but that what was it, Mississippi, where they ran out of ballots and they were just like, sorry, that
Yeah, we'll keep there was like a judge ordered like, well, you got to stay open for another hour. Really, that's
Oh,
going to help the problem. That's going to solve the lack of ballots. Is just you can stand
yeah,
in line
because
for another hour and then be
because we
rejected.
cannot we cannot come back tomorrow. No way. But it's just to me, it's like I would lose it if somebody literally told me to my face I wasn't gonna get my vote. What do you mean? That's definitely not good. Like, you gotta be kidding me, right? But I guess I mean, like you said, let's be real. That's what they're saying all the time.
I have a
They don't
question
want
for
people to get their
Antonio.
vote.
okay.
So my question is, what do you think about 2000?
What part?
Just the whole thing.
The whole the of course the Supreme Court issue with Bush and Gore. Well, I mean, I think that the consensus now is that we had a very, I don't call them conservative judges. I think they're very reactionary. And I think what we saw there was a very reactionary attempt by the Supreme Court. But that is the Supreme Court's function ultimately in the United States, is that when the democracy is rendering results that we don't want, the court is there ultimately to facilitate the interest of the state when the political mechanisms are falling apart. So we're not going to wait for the state of Florida to finish counting to do the recount, which is an obvious thing to do. And of course, once we did, of course, do the recount, we found it went to Gore anyways. That was irrelevant. What was more important was the outcome of that election, not necessarily what the population wanted, and that was a crucial thing. But also, what's important is that we learned a lot of lessons there. Um, this was also during a time that we actually did have a lot more voter participation, right? With Nader. And one of the things that was going on, excuse me, not with Nader. One of the things that was going on with, yeah, it was Ralph, I'm sorry, was that he got blamed for what happened down there in the great state of Florida. that 20,000 people voted green. That in the language of um, what we call mainstream here, uh, would have voted for Gore and could have pushed him to win the state. But what they don't talk about is the fact that 200,000 registered Democrats were disaffected and voted for the Republican, voted for Bush. And so I'm just like, how do those numbers work? People who vote green, the reason why they're voting green is because it's either that or they probably won't vote. Actually, it's not either that or they would vote Democrat. It's the people who actually that you should put that view on are the registered Democrats, because presumably registered Democrats would be voting Democrat. But that's not the conclusion that the left came to. In fact, they came to the opposite conclusion that 20,000 is a much bigger number than 200,000. And so, like you say, there's not really an interest nationally to get people actively involved. I mean, they just turned their back on 200 disaffected voters. I mean, look, we almost won. Florida used to be a blue state. It was going to go to Andrew Gillum, right? That was back in 2018. And now it's a Ron DeSantis state.
That
And
was like
that
a
is,
really narrow election. Like it was like less than 1% or some shit.
and now it's completely a red state. It's as hard, it's as red as red can get. It's hot red. But that's what happens when a political party is disinterested in appealing to a constituency that's suffering, but at the deliverance of that constituency, you have to make your donor class feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, I mean, I'd still. Well, yeah, like yeah, like to me, like the idea of like 2,000 pretty much confirms that there's like never going to be a positive outcome in an election, because if there's even close to one, they're just gonna steal it again. Like they'll come up with any reason they can to just steal another one. Like so to me, like the whole idea of voting, like I find it to be like it takes up too much of the conversation, versus like protest, or even as simply as like going to the town hall meeting and having like 500 of your buddies to just like have like their 2-minute comment period and then make them stay until like fucking 4 a.m. every night or some shit. Like I feel like that is way more effective at getting people like motivated and engaged than voting is.
Oh, well,
read
that's,
this
I
funny.
think, I mean, go ahead, Matt. I'm sorry.
No. I'm gonna get us off topic. You go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to just say, Andrew, real quick, that's exactly Noam Chomsky's big point. I mean, I disagree with him on basically voting blue no matter who, but his big point is, listen, voting, you pull the lever for at least the disinterested parties once a year. I mean, once every 4 years, right? For people who participate just in the presidential elections. That's a very small level of participation. It's important and you should do it, but it's the least that you can do.
I agree.
These Kissinger tweets are pretty funny.
Yeah,
Rolling
let's go.
Stone is like bragging about their headline. They're like, "Here's how we're handling it." Like one of their
I mean, they had the
editors
best one so
retweeted
far.
that. This guy, I don't know this account, but he says everybody is celebrating. I think he means everyone who is celebrating Kissinger dying, and no one is thinking about the low-wage workers forced to build an entire new level of hell at depths never reached before. You guys are so anti-labor.
Damn.
That was pretty funny. Yeah, it's just, a lot of sarcasm out there. A lot of guillotines. It's pretty funny though. A lot of pictures of him not looking good.
Just,
you know what I mean? Just
frankly,
like,
he wasn't looking his best. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
Nomiki Konst has tweeted a painting by George W. Bush of Kissinger.
Wow.
Wow.
I didn't know that
Yeah,
that crossover existed.
I know. It's
I'm so
crazy.
glad that George W. Bush has found something that works for him after a career of war criminality. I'm glad he's found something to release his inners.
I'm just happy he's not like fucking in government, you know? Like he could just like easily win some seat somewhere to continue fucking shit up, but like he was probably never interested in this to begin with, you know? So
Um, should I show these tweets?
if
Should I
you
just
want, I
scroll
mean,
Twitter? Um,
I don't know
the
about
human,
scrolling Twitter live, you know,
yeah,
that could
I know.
turn bad at any moment.
The Humanist Report has a picture of Hillary and Kissinger embracing and says Hillary is probably so sad right now. Laugh my ass off. Uh, Olaimi Olurin says, I'm not going to lie, y'all. I thought Henry Kissinger was dead already. That's fun. You think somebody's got their finger on the pulse, and then Henry Kissinger dies, and you realize they had no idea he was still alive. I mean,
Well,
when
I
you
don't
get to
know if that's
100,
necessarily truthful. You know, when I
I
hear
mean, there's
someone
a,
say not gonna lie, I'm hearing, oh man, they're totally lying right now. So
yeah, there is a lot of like celebrities out there who, if you asked me if they were alive right now, I'd be like, I'm not sure. But that's just because they're not in the headlines every day, you know? Here's one tweet says, "Are we sure he's actually dead?" Yeah. How do you? Please don't verify that.
well, Matt, there is this thing where the occasional Jew does rise from the dead.
Yeah, I've heard that story. I mean, if they did send him, if they did send him to an island of rich people where they have the technology to live forever, good, stay there, just leave. There's a lot of tweets going that say "finally." It's funny. Um, uh, One says, "I called him Henry Kissinger on account of his being a
ooh,
huge jerk."
oh damn.
There's a lot of people toasting. Dave Griscom is going live toasting right now. I mean, it's pretty funny. Uh, Forrest Miller says, "Finally, some good news. Satan has opened the pits and called his favorite son home." Jeez.
It reminds me very similarly. Remember when Jerry Falwell died?
Yeah.
Um, oh, you don't remember? Yeah, yeah. Christopher Hitchens came on, I think it was Fox News, and just totally just lays into Jerry Falwell. Just like, oh my goodness.
Yeah. People need to
Well
remember.
deserved,
We
obviously.
need another Hitchens, you know, like we just don't really have that kind of character anymore.
Right.
Um, I am Sock says Henry Kissinger was a bad dude. He ran with a bunch of bad boys.
That's true. That's true.
Uh,
Oh, I like that one actually a lot.
okay, here's a quote from Henry Kissinger. "It is not a matter of what is true that counts, but a matter of what is perceived to be true." There you go.
So
Just
true, King.
there's a lot of celebrating going on. What kind of I don't know if you guys subscribe to this, but you can create like a certain amount of energy. Just I mean, when what does it feel like when a million people celebrate the death of one person? Do you know what I mean? Like if there is
Oh
such a
yeah.
thing that you can create a vibe or an energy and put it out into the universe, what's that look like right now? What's the aura look like? Like if it were visual, the sky be
It
red?
would be like Goku going Super Saiyan, you know?
Be like a lightning storm?
Yeah, something like that. Like the
I don't
clouds
want to
start to pour in.
I don't often sweat how I'm going to be remembered. I don't really think about that. but I know how I
I
don't
think
want to
about it
be
every day.
remembered. Well, I don't want to be celebrated. I don't want people to rejoice that I'm finally gone. Like some people don't
Well,
care about that, I guess.
I
That's
will,
crazy to me.
Letterhack, because once you die, I get to be the sole owner of this show. So
Oh, right.
I will
Okay.
I
celebrate.
I think it's important though
Big.
that because we all feel like, well, we've all lost somebody and we feel that loss and that sadness. And that is to commemorate their humanity, the good about them that we'll no longer get to enjoy. When you look at someone like Kissinger and you think about the history of the century of death he's left behind, you're just like, well, good riddance. I mean, should I say, oh God, I hope he would stay around for another 50 years? Uh,
Well, if
I
it's
mean,
like
not.
like another 50 years when he's like suffering and he's got like cancer in every organ, like I'm not, you know what? I don't know. I think there's something to it on that one.
Yeah. I just I don't know why people would go through life doing horrible shit thinking I don't care if like cuz surely Kissinger, when you get to 100, you're going to think about that. What's it going to be like when I'm gone? Cuz this isn't going to go on much longer. It's like if you're reading a book and you can see there's fewer and fewer pages, but it doesn't feel like it's over. You start wondering, can I predict the end, right? And so I just feel like that's kind of like how life is. Like you're watching the pages dwindle and you start thinking about the ending and what's it going to be like when it's over and I'm not here and everything else goes on, right? And I'm sure that he was like, no, 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 I have a legacy. People are going to remember me. I shaped diplomacy in this country or however they were wording it in those fucked up headlines. But like, do you think he ever thought to himself like, wow, there's a lot of people who are going to be happy I'm gone? And like, how does that weigh on you? If you're a guy like him?
If you're a guy like him, he's probably just like he would probably get a kick out of it, honestly, now that I think about it.
I just don't think he gets the time to even ask himself if people who he has no interaction with, even abstractly, or at the most, only abstractly, if they're going to feel any way about him. He's pampered. I mean, I saw him running around with Clinton not too long ago. So he's surrounded in a sphere of people who praise him as almost an apostle in the field of foreign affairs and international relations. And so he just sees his legacy as I am the maker of future statesmen. And how do I know? Because they're all surrounding me. That's all I see all the time. Yeah, sometimes when I go to a public event, some loser who didn't go to the top schools might yell at me. That doesn't matter. In fact, that's good. That shows that shows like Andrea said. That shows that I'm the type of figure that for some people they're going to love me, and those are the people I'm surrounded around. But I also need to be reminded that other people who don't know me, who I don't know, they know my legacy too, whether they like it or
Yeah.
they don't.
Saw a tweet where somebody retweeted the headline that Kissinger had died and they just said vaxxed question mark question mark question mark.
That's a good segue to talk about Novavax.
Hit it. What do you got?
All right, so I got the Novavax vaccine on Monday,
Oh, so
and
that's what's wrong. Just
that's
kidding.
what's wrong. Yeah, I got vaxxed. My timer is clicking any minute now. It's going to be hitting 0. But for those of you that don't understand what Novavax is, because this is a new vaccine. Most people are familiar with the mRNA vaccine. Novavax is a more traditional vaccine style. It doesn't use mRNA. And some studies have said that the new version of each vaccine, so Moderna's got a new one, Pfizer's got a new one, and Novavax has one. And they were testing it out like side by side, which one has longer lasting efficacy. Turns out Novavax has won all of those tests that I've seen, and I'm no shill here. I would be if they would offer me compensation, but I'm not
I've
currently a
never
shill.
heard of
Well, this is
Novavax.
this is a good thing because well, not a good thing. This is a bad thing, but I can talk about it. Because Moderna and Pfizer got all those government contracts in 2021 and 2022, whereas Novavax did not, right? So like most of that government contract like is just a hype campaign, right? Like,
Hmm.
where everyone knows about these vaccines now and these companies, whereas Novavax did not have any of that. There was also like this really long, like arduous battle with the FDA to get approval for Novavax, even though it was like approved in many other countries and pretty much like Canada and other countries were like, yeah, this is the best vaccine we have right now. The US was like, and so basically what they did is they kicked the can down the road so that Moderna and Pfizer got their shit out like weeks and weeks before Novavax. So like, if you're someone who wants to get vaccinated on day one, you can't get Novavax, right? So me personally, I waited until it was more available. I should also say Novavax has apparent, like according to me as one person, it has less side effects. Really the only thing is I got a sore arm. I got it on Monday, so that's like 2 days ago or something.
I mean, I have a sore
So
arm. I haven't had any vaccine. Is it? I mean, I have been vaccinated, but how do you spell it? Is it 3 X's? Because that would be pretty cool.
no, I think it's
Novavax.
actually 7
Oh.
X's.
Oh, wow. It's like Nova and just keep hitting X.
Yeah, you just hold it down.
It's like pi, but with X's. So, it's not free, huh?
No, it is not. I had to, it was about $200. So
Ooh.
Yeah, rough. I think as
rough.
long as taxpayers help develop it, it should be free. I mean, it should just be free.
Oh.
Come on, this is the thing.
Well, that's part of the government. The government does not want the COVID vaccines to be free because they want you to keep catching COVID and get sicker and sicker and sicker. So you can't protest, you can't even work
Can't
anymore, you
vote.
can't do anything, can't vote.
No
Yeah, because
voting.
going to
Full
vote
circle.
requires getting up. And so
Right.
the government's trying to profit off of the burgeoning AI and robotics industries in order to phase out people by making them get as sick as possible. That's what I believe anyway. I mean, you can call me a little crazy if you want, but
Well, I do think that it's good Kissinger died, though. I honestly, I know people joke about it and have joked about it, and that's funny, and I'll joke about it, but it's not like I sit around going, please die. But when they
Right.
do, I'm not sad about it. And
yeah, celebrate it
because,
when it comes.
like, in theory, there was a chance for him to try and redeem himself toward the end. I don't know how or why, but small percentage that somebody would, like the guy who said, was it the guy who was on his deathbed and he's like, I killed Hoffa. Remember that? People do it. People come clean. They've got nothing to lose, So if there was any hope of, he probably has too many people around him.
Didn't Rumsfeld die?
Handlers.
Rumsfeld died, didn't he?
I'm pretty sure that
See,
guy's
this is
dead.
what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Look it up,
Rumsfeld
Andrew.
died, had to be several years ago, and I don't think he was one of those guys that had that type of moment either.
Let me look it up.
Yeah, like if somebody's
Yeah,
just
he
been
died
out
in
of the
21.
headlines for a while. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
That was a couple
From
years
what?
ago.
COVID?
I don't know. I already closed the tab. I don't care.
Yeah, it's just,
Ideally, a gunshot to the head, but what are you gonna do?
it's just over the last few years. I mean, people, lots of people have passed away. You just sort of, if you haven't heard about them recently, they might be gone. I don't know.
I remember that whole gang. It was Rumsfeld, Wolfowitz, Dick. Can't forget
Oh man,
Dick.
Dick's got to be the next one. You know, he's gonna when he dies. Woo!
Jeez, man.
And he's had
Evil incarnate.
plenty of like dress rehearsals. You know what I mean? Like shot in the face. Or no, he shot somebody else in the face. That's
You're
right.
right,
I'm
right.
misremembering.
And
But
he was not
enough
at all
heart attack.
remorseful. Actually, the guy that got shot was remorseful.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, imagine having like to get like all of a sudden you're trying to have a great time with the vice president and now people are blaming you for the vice pres like, "Oh, how dare you, you know, get shot by the vice president?" You know, like I mean, come on, really? I mean, what a piece of shit.
Yeah. They paid him for that, right? They pay him to say that. I
Probably
don't know.
not. I mean, the payment
Or had
was that visit. He got paid
they
in
had
fucking buckshot or whatever the fuck.
Right, you
they
got to
probably
meet the
had
vice
dirt on him.
president. And he slapped him on his shoulder.
Matt
So we're still
Bender.
Republicans. We're not going to hand out anything here.
Exactly.
Matt Bender says, "Sad news, everyone. Henry Kissinger died." I mean, that's a hilarious tweet that you might not, if you didn't know, might be like, "Ooh, who is Henry Kissinger? Oh, that's sad." But that would mean you don't know Matt Bender too. I watched Bender's stream last night. Doomed. Are you familiar with Matt Bender, Antonio?
Oh, I'm not.
Former producer of the Majority Report. Now he does his own thing, and he's,
Oh,
you
okay.
know, a writer and streamer. And he was covering, um, I don't even want to like, I don't really openly, publicly critique
Oh, you're already in.
um,
It's too late. You can't
Uh-oh.
stop now.
other shows, but
Uh-oh.
he was covering one. And I'll just say that it was three guys on screen, and one wasn't saying anything, and the other two were like spitting, yelling, and screaming at each other.
So can you tell us like because
And
otherwise
I
I'm
was
gonna
like,
have
this
to
is
go
the
look this up.
news. This is the fucking news.
You're gonna
And I
force
was
me to
like,
look
this
at
is the
this.
most embarrassing excuse. And then like at the end they were like, and I know it's emotional. And I'm like, it's not emotional, it's immature. You people cannot control yourselves. It's like if it were emotional, you'd be upset and struggling to find your words and maybe crying or maybe like telling people like, I'm sorry I'm getting upset. It's emotional. But they were just like losing it, like off the rails, losing it. And then at the end, Bender was like, I don't think it was that bad. And I was like, wait a minute, did we just watch the same video? I think he's just
Is this the
exposed to
one
this
where he's talking about
more than me.
TYT? I just want to make sure I'm on
Yeah.
the right video.
Yeah, that was it. That was it.
Yeah, isn't that one TYT like Ben some shit? Like that guy's like a full like, you know, like Nazi Zionist scumbag. He's like posting on Twitter like fuck yeah, the terrorists are dead, baby. I don't know what
This
the
is what
fuck's
they
going on with
do.
those guys. Holy shit, man.
It's not objective whatsoever. It's not something like I don't like to watch news people who are locked into one way of thinking and unwavering, and you can't reason with them. And when you try to reason with them, they start yelling and screaming and flipping. I mean, the guy is flipping out, right?
I gotta
And
watch
so
that video. Yeah, like I don't even know like why. Well, I mean, I know why TYT would have neo Nazis on because it's a right wing show. But like, I don't like. What is this whole like? We gotta have both sides. Let's get the neo Nazis on to talk about how 20,000 dead kids is
well,
based. Actually, like
I think what TYT does is they see somebody who has like a flash of popularity for a video they did or an interview they did. And in this case, that guy had he did like one of these like bro debates with Charlie Kirk, and it went viral, and of course they pick him up right away. And this happens on TYT a lot. They turn out to be a dud. Like, yeesh, maybe you shouldn't have done that, right? And it's like maybe you should have vetted him a little more. Maybe you should have just thrown him onto the main show or whatever. But I think in this case, what I'm seeing is an embarrassing degree of it's two grown men shouting and screaming, and I like literally like when you're this close to me and you're spitting, let's cool off, right? Let's calm down because there's physical contact and that's too much for me. So, but then Jenk said, you know what? I'll tell you, all they need to do is Hamas needs to stop being dumbasses. And I was like, it was something along those lines. Those weren't the exact words, but that was the gist of it. And I was like, okay, hold on. This is not what I would call a valid critique. This is not anything. No one's benefiting from this whatsoever, except, ooh, let's watch these two guys yell and scream like little kids, right? And and when I say little kids, I mean people who don't know better, and they should know better, especially when you're
Like toddlers,
claiming to be the voice of progressives and independent online media that represents progressives, and they try to define what progressivism even means. And then that's how they behave. And I thought, yeah, I forget why I brought it up, but I just thought like it was laughable. It was to the point where I was like, this is unbearable. Like I had to mute it. I
You
was
brought
just
it up
watching them
because you
yell.
wanted to throw Matt Binder under the rug, under the
Oh
bus
no,
even.
this is
Yeah.
so I love watching Binder. He's hilarious. He had a great commentary along the way. He had he was saying all the reasonable stuff that they weren't saying in
Mm.
response to what they were saying. So I thought it was one of these like lefty critiques that really worked. But then at the end, we totally disagreed because he said, I don't know, I don't think it was that bad. I kind of feel sorry for him. And I was like, no, 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 no.
Well,
That
that's the
guy's
thing. A
off
lot
the
of,
rails.
no offense to Binder, but like a lot of people, they always feel there's like some like need in the back of your head of like, well, I got to qualify everything in some degree, like TYT can't just be a bunch of fucking stupid ass garbage, like, because, oh no, it's too absolute. So you got to go like, well, like, it's garbage, but like, there's like a half-eaten banana on top. So it's like, you could eat that if you want, it's like, it's not that
Somebody
bad.
should have called it. Somebody should have been like, okay, guys, we're go to a break. And I think it was like a bonus episode or something, but still, that's where you need to be like, all right, chill. Dan from the internet has a great video on one of his last days as a producer for TYT where he did that. He was like, he was calling the shots as the producer of the segment, and he was like, we're going to break. And I was like, wow, they really do that over there? So a lot of that stuff makes it on the air. I just couldn't tolerate it. Like if somebody on here just started yelling and screaming, I'd be like, you're off. I just
Don't
would
censor me.
mute. I'd mute somebody.
I feel
And
like a lot of
I don't
times when I
know.
see stuff like that, people are just doing it because it's supposed to be like emotionally grabbing. It's just like a kind of clicky bait type thing. I don't know how sincere. And I actually think I saw the clip that you're talking about where Jank was arguing with one of his hosts on this current conflict. And I just felt like it was forced. A lot of that was forced.
They
Well, yeah,
definitely
because
weren't
TYT doesn't produce anything
de-escalating.
that's thought provoking. They don't want to make you think about things because if you think about something, you're going to unsubscribe from their shit ass show. So it's like they just want to like give you that highly emotionally charged nonsense that like you kind of see on mainstream news, but they're allowed to say fuck sometimes. Like that's pretty much it. It's the same thing as mainstream news, except like the Overton window is like slightly more to the left and like slightly more funny, I guess. Like Jenk is kind of funny. I mean, give him that one. He's kind of funny. Look at him. I mean, he does the whole, arms waving, thing. It's kind of funny. You don't see Wolf Blitzer be that kind of funny, So it's like it's a slightly more funny, energetic kind of mainstream news. And it's just like, yeah, like it's just like, yeah, let's bring on the neo-Nazi to talk about like, how many dead kids is acceptable? 10,000, 20,000? Like what number of dead terrorist 5-year-olds, the terror toddlers as they're called, right? Like, like it's just like and that's the thing is everyone involved, they think that the audience is fucking stupid, right? Because why else would they air something like that? It's not a genuine debate. It's not like, oh, we're gonna have a factual
Yeah.
conversation.
It's
Like they literally just know that their audience is fucking stupid. Like the TYT audience has a low IQ, and I don't even believe in IQ. But if IQ is real, it's way down there for the TYT audience. They know it. The audience probably knows it, and they're just taking advantage of it.
yeah, it came off like
But it wasn't that bad. I just gotta say.
it was okay. But no, he was like an apologist in every way. And then it felt like he was, because Jank was real even keeled at first. And it felt like he was just trying to piss him off. And then he finally lost it because you can only yell at Cenk Uygur for so long before he's like, oh, wait, I should be yelling back. And then what always gets me is because I do feel like they're not giving their audience credit, right? Which is what you're saying. Like they're not giving their audience any respect in that moment. And then they're going to go to break and be like, here's how you can support this content. Become a member.
And they
Subscribe.
have these
It
like
only costs you this
9,000
much.
like overproduced advertisements, or it's got like the music and like the editing effects, and it's like Cenk going like this or whatever the fuck. It's like it's so cringe. Like
And
it's
it's
like if you
actually
would have
just
told me that that's a
whatever
parody,
happens.
right? If you would have told me that that shit's like a joke, like someone like did like a YouTube poop like compilation or something, I would believe it. But the fact that they air those things on their own show and they call them commercials, that's hilarious to me.
Yeah, I went to
Yeah.
school like specifically to study the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, so I don't almost ever engage in current events or contemporary news about it, just because I don't find conversations usually in the moment to be um, very reflective of the history. So I don't try to engage, and when I do see it, it seems to be overly sensational. It seems to be extremely simplified for that kind of media effect. Um, and it's just like, okay.
It's
It's the
not. I used
lowest
to,
common denominator politic, right? Where everything has to be dumbed down to like a second grader level so that an average dumb fuck can like understand 6 or 7 words per sentence, Like that's the just kind of shit we have to deal with in this country.
yeah, I used to think TYT was like a gateway drug for progressive online media, independent media or whatever. And because when I was watching it, I was like, oh, okay, I'm getting a feel for like what streaming is or a YouTube show. And oh, okay, this is politics from a angle I can't get from the mainstream. I get it. I agree with a lot of this. And then it was like whenever I would talk about politics to people who I was trying to like bring them left, right? Further left, I found myself using that same tone where I was upset and angry and they're like, "Wow, you're really pissed about it." I'm like, "I'm not though. It's just how I learned it." Like I'm just mimicking what they were doing on air, and I got to the point where I was like, "I need something really boring. I need like interviews and like actual journalism now." And that's when I found the majority. And I was like, "This is perfect because they have fun, but it's serious." You know what I mean? And then from there, it's like there's all these alternatives.
I
So I
think it's
guess,
the Bill O'Reillyization. It's funny, Bill
yeah, right,
O'Reillyization of the media.
yeah. I think that it would make sense for one of these alternatives to the mainstream online to end up being the one you go to for shouting and anger. I think
And that's
I
kind of
think
like
maybe,
Jimmy
yeah, exactly. It's like
Jimmy Dore went
I
down that
because
road.
here's where I'm coming from. The last time I watched them, they were yelling and screaming about something. It was incoherent. I felt like it was cringe. I don't watch for a few years. I see a clip and they're still doing that. So I assume
Yeah.
they're leaning into it. And if they aren't leaning into it, then they should know that those are the moments that are going viral. Just like I said, if I had done that cartoon that was in poor taste and got really popular, I would be known for something that I don't do the rest of the time, most of the time. So if they're
Yeah.
not yelling and screaming like that all the time, that's the perception to guys like me who are only watching like a clip every couple of years, and it's the exact same cringy stuff. It's really
Like, you
if
also
I
need to,
worked
like,
there,
if we're doing the shit talk TYT hour, like, fundamentally, Cenk Uygur and then also Anna Kasparian, they're not intelligent people. Like, they're not critical thinkers, right? Everything that they say, like, is just kind of like accidentally into that position. Like, they read a good book or something that was well worded. Like, they don't come up with their own unique narratives. That's why someone like Anna Kasparian can watch like a transphobic podcast and then like a year later she disagrees with everything she said a year prior. Like, they don't think, right? They just, what does this person say? Oh, they have a nice looking beard. I guess I'll listen to them now. Oh, what does that person say? Wow, they dress really nice. I guess that all their opinions are mine, right? And fundamentally, like, their only skill is that they know how to like produce something like of a show, like, and where does that come from? Just having money, right? Like, so like none of these people have really earned their position other than just being like the first people who did something. Like, yeah, they started their show in like 2006. Cool, bro. Like, if that's your only achievement, then in the year 2023, I don't know, man. It's crazy that people still give them any amounts of relevancy, but that's just me.
so Andrea, have we talked about people saying, and we may have talked about this last week. Have we talked about people saying when talking about people that a broken clock can be right twice a day? And I'm
I don't
like,
know if we
people aren't
talked about this
clocks.
on or
That's
off the
not a
show. Yeah.
thing. I hate that. I hate that. And I hate when people say, oh, I got to give them credit for one out of like a million things, right? A million bad things. It is one thing that's not so bad. And you're like, got to give them credit for that. No, you don't. Yeah. You
Yeah,
don't have
like
to
it's
give
like
anybody credit.
if I did a fucking segment about like praising Adolf Hitler for being a vegetarian, it's like, well, broken clock, it's like, what the fuck are we doing here?
He's
Like,
not
who
a
gives a
clock.
fuck about that? Like, come on now, it's ridiculous.
It's
But
not, it's
people
not
love doing
battery
their like
operated.
semi-contrarian, like, ooh, I'm gonna compliment the neo-Nazi today. Got to be a little bit, ooh, like, I don't know, man. Like, the whole thing is just fucking dumb.
Well, is there anything we can segue to before we, because I always remind people we've been on for an hour. It's an
12
hour and
minutes,
13 minutes.
13
Yeah.
minutes past the hour,
Is
everybody.
there any happy, positive, fluffy stuff? Got any good
Yes.
content? What are you
Yes.
doing personally that's fun? What do you got?
So I'm working on my Christmas Doom game, and it's almost done. And so once again, everybody, Matthew will be playing this on the week of Christmas. I'm
Oh,
deciding it now. We're gonna figure
okay.
that out, and you're gonna be live streaming it during the week of Christmas, whatever day or the week before. I don't know. Do you celebrate Christmas? I only celebrate Christmas by like just making fun of it. So um And so, you've never played have you played Doom before? You said you've played, like, back in the '90s, right? So
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it was 90 or
well, it's
91.
'93. And so you haven't played the game in 30 years, that's great. And so we'll see if you
That
can
would have been
find
the
all the
first
secrets.
version, right?
Oh, yeah.
That would have been the very first. Is it boring though? I mean, we get to kill things, right?
Did you just call a game
Oh,
I
hold
played,
on.
like, 10,000 hours of boring? Is that what just happened?
Well, I mean, I don't know what passes for entertainment when it comes to video games, but is this, you made this?
Yeah. You wanna get, like, some I can give you, like, a fucking screenshot to show if you want.
Oh,
Can we
cool.
do
Sure.
that? Do we have that technology?
Yeah. Um,
Holy shit.
I feel like, yeah,
Hold
I,
up, let me
I'll,
take a
I'll,
screenshot.
I think I'm gonna be around that week. See, this is the thing: is you can thank capitalism. It's when everyone has their paid time off, and so that's when everyone does things together. And if my wife doesn't have school or work or whatever, then we make plans. But I don't know. I think that
I'm gonna open up Discord
be
and
fun
send
to
you
do a
a screenshot.
clueless gamer, and especially if you made the game. So here's my thing: is it when you make a game, like, how does that work? Is it the same
I
as the
posted it
regular
in Discord.
game? It's the same as the regular game? Is it lower quality? Like, oh,
Oh,
cool.
everything I make is better than the original game. Let's just put it that way. The game's 30 years old. I've been making levels for video games since I was like fucking, I don't know, I guess I started when I was like 7 or 8 years old. So I've been doing this for
Oh
a long
wow.
time. And
How do you do this? So it's just there's like a feature to the game that you can do this?
it's not really, I mean, it's a feature in the sense that the game exists, right? And like it doesn't, like a lot of games nowadays, they have that like bullshit corporate garbage where they're like, you cannot modify this because fuck you, you know? But old back in the 90s, they didn't do that. They were like, oh, you want to modify this shit? Hell yeah,
Okay,
brother.
so is this Doom at the North Pole?
Yes.
Okay. Do we slip on the snow or are we stable? We can walk around on the snow. You didn't add a
You
feature
could
where you
add
slip
ice
and fall.
physics, but like ice physics
Oh,
fucking
wow.
suck. You like they just
I
fucking suck. Fuck ice
That's
physics.
what I
Like
was
in
gonna
any
say,
game, they
don't
just
do that.
yeah, fuck that shit.
Are
By the way,
there
this is the
physics
first
where
screenshot. This is the first screenshot of A War on Christmas Part 2. No one has seen this. You're the first person, everyone out there watching.
wow.
First screenshot. So,
The War on
How
Christmas
difficult
Part 2.
yep,
do you
it's the
have,
second
like,
one.
target physics? Is it gonna be difficult to shoot, or is it gonna be,
No,
like, really easy?
it'll be easy. Don't worry about
Is
that.
there gonna
It'll
be a
take you
lot of
maybe like
stuff
10
to shoot?
minutes to figure it out, but
That's really
What are we
cool.
fighting, like, zombie elves or just elves? We're just out like, who's the boss? Santa?
well, there's reskinned Doom monsters. Like on the screen there, you can see like they're just Doom guys with like the fucking hats on. But then some of them, there is an elf monster that shoots at you. There's a
Oh,
Santa
I see.
Claus monster that shoots at you.
Ah,
Okay. What about those snowmen? Can we shoot those if we want?
You can shoot them, but they're decoration, so
oh,
nothing happens. But you could shoot them. You can shoot them.
that's
Okay.
so cool.
This ground has been groomed for skiing. Can you see that? That's what those like tread marks are. That's what they do at ski resorts. Are we skiing?
You
Might
could.
be cool. Do tricks, go off jumps, go off a jump, do a loop-de-loo, shooting the whole time. That'd be
I don't know.
cool.
That's a little high tech, but
Oh, okay.
you can definitely
Well,
you can do jumps. There are cliffs you can jump off of.
That's
Loop de
War on
loops. I
Christmas
don't know
3.
about that though. What?
I said that's War on Christmas 3.
Oh yeah, you gotta
yeah.
wait for next year.
How difficult is it gonna be, or how easy is it gonna be for me to die, to get killed?
Well, there is going to be an easy mode, so
And
I
that's
wouldn't
fun
worry about
mode?
it. That's
Fun
the
mode?
mode for people who haven't played the game in 30 years.
User friendly?
Yeah, there's just, there's health and ammo everywhere. You can't die unless you're really trying to, and I'm sure you will die. So,
I was really good at it in '93.
well, we'll see how the rust holds up there. Looking
I
like the
get to use a
goddamn
keyboard?
Statue of Liberty.
I get to use a keyboard?
Keyboard and mouse, if you can believe such a thing.
Okay, great. Okay. Cool, and I assume there's, like, sound effects.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
What about music? Is there a soundtrack? Is it like
Oh yeah.
Christmas carols?
Well, the music is like I use a lot of like snow levels from other video games, like they're like a lot of video games have like an ice level, right? And they have like the cheery bullshit ass music. So I kind of take that. I wrote a little of my own, it's a little, experimental,
What about those little interludes, the little plays or skits they do between levels? Is there anything like that? Or like
In
Santa
between
Claus
each
loading a
level.
bazooka or
Well,
whatever?
there's no movies, there's no, like, motion, but there are still frames, and there are, like, story screens between each level. There's, like,
Oh,
a story
did you
screen.
write those?
Yes.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
so there's like a whole story you have written.
Well, the story for the first A War on Christmas is someone dressed up as Santa Claus killed a bunch of kids, and so you're sent to investigate what happened. And that's why it's called a war on Christmas. Then you find out, demons from hell, they cloned Santa Claus, right? So now there's like 9 trillion Santa Clauses and they're out there killing kids, because that's what Santa
Oh.
does. He goes to the chimneys, but instead of going to the chimney with presents, he's got guns and then he shoots them in the fucking head, because I get to
Jeez.
write
Okay.
crazy ass stories. So now in part 2, you're basically just doing more of that. You're killing the Santa Clauses,
But we took it to his front door
Yeah, so now
at the North
the whole
Pole.
game takes place in the North Pole.
So
So you just got to kill all the demons from hell.
are we government in U.S.? Are we like FBI, CIA? Are we
It's
Interpol? Are we
unclear,
special agents?
maybe in the later sequels I might flesh out a
There
backstory,
needs to be like an international organization, and it's like that somehow already has anti-Christmas tendencies. You know what I mean? Or like, and it's
The
like these
UN.
guys would be perfect in this situation. Like, who do we call? Oh my god! And it's like, well, there's these one elite fighters who hate winter holidays with a passion anyway.
Well, you
Their
can
symbol
come
is
on as a
like a
story
candy
writer. Do you
cane
want to
with a
do like a
slash
comic
to it.
in the universe? We could do like a backstory comic
Oh
in the
yeah,
universe.
yeah, it'd be great.
All right.
Yeah, and it would be more like we want to fight Santa Claus than save lives. You know what I mean? Because like
Yeah, like
elite
they don't
fighting
give a shit
forces
about the
are
dead
like,
kids,
yeah,
right? The dead
we just
kids,
want to
like, oh
use
shit,
our
we got dead
weapons.
kids. All right.
We'd
Like dead
rather
kids for
just
them
use
is
our
a good
weapons
thing, like,
than well, just to have a reason to go after Santa. It's like, hey,
Yeah.
enough said. We're on it. But
I don't care
then
how many kids died, the more the merrier.
merrier, good one. Then you get to the North Pole, and it's just that, right? It's just taking out Santa's forces,
Yeah, I have a
right?
whole level that's just nothing but 1,000 Santa Clauses that you just mow down.
Hmm. You should make like
Wow.
the reindeer the masters of each, like Dixon's the master of one, Blitzen. They're like
That
Oh
would be
yeah.
an idea. I can put that in the sequel bank.
Yeah, and they have like messed up personalities, right?
Well, don't they already
Rudolph.
have messed up personalities? Aren't they all
Well,
like
but like
bullies and shit? Like they just
Rudolph
fucking
would
pick
be
on
like
that red-nosed freak.
But like Rudolph, the result of being like picked on so much, like what's he turn into, right? He would become like a real sociopathic, or
We
I
could
don't
make a
know.
sequel where the player is Rudolph and you're getting revenge on those other fuckers. That's an idea.
'Cause I
You're
always
Jacked
have,
up Rudolph, who like sharpens his teeth,
Yeah, there you go.
his reindeer teeth.
if you think about it, like if a deer or if a reindeer isn't pulling the sled, venison, right? So
Wrong.
like they live in fear, and maybe like the original reindeer are long since gone, and they just put in new deer with the same names. So
It's all a factory. They just
it's
churn
like
out.
Donner
Yeah,
5.0 or Vixen number 7 or something like that, right? And it's
exactly.
like I don't know. It's good. We could go on and on with this. Oh, cool. Okay. Gives new perspective to when I was a kid, you turn on AM radio and they go, oh, we've got the Santa radar. He's over this town now. And in your world, it would be like, oh no, Santa, you'd be listening to the radio like, where the hell is Santa now?
Santa's
Right.
He's
last scene
over.
in Iowa. Everybody run.
It's a trail of bodies. Wow, yeah.
Well, if
I
you ever
think
want to draw dead kids, we can do a prequel
Oh my
comic.
goodness.
I don't
I
know if
think
you
you
want to
do
cross
need
that line.
I think if you tried to get this copyrighted, the Library of Congress would have some revisions they would like you to make before
Yes.
proceeding with the actual copyright. Even though you have to pay them for it, I do think they would say, okay, class it up
Do we
just a little
really
bit.
need the dead kids? Like,
That's
are
what
they
I'm
really,
saying. Yeah.
can't they be dead 18-year-olds? Like, and I'm gonna say no.
Well, but I
Oh,
In fact,
think
they're gonna be dead
if
8-year-olds. This is what
I
we
think
call
the
a
way
post-birth abortion.
okay, so let's consider a rewrite. I think if you were going to do that, you would say that there's a faction of elves that tried to prevent Santa from doing that, and they made it to the human world or whatever, where we are. And they are like, look, elves are real. We're here to prove it. And bad news, Santa, insane. And he's trying to kill all the kids of the world. We got to stop him. And then you do it before there's carnage. Know what I mean? Then when you get to North Pole, you see that he's like been doing horrible things with like dolls and stuff like
oh, I
that,
was
right?
just
Like,
thinking about that. He's not kissing. He's what is that song? You call it Santa kissing.
yeah, we call it
Uh,
mommy kissing Santa Claus,
oh
right?
yeah, except this time he's doing dirty like
Yeah.
XX stuff.
You don't want to know what he's doing with them
Like
dolls. Woo!
Santa's workshop will be a level where you enter it and then slowly back out. Like, what is like now we got to find all 1,000 of them and wipe them out. This has gone too far. Yeah, I think this is great. There's a lot of potential here. There are certain aspects that will not make it into popular culture. Uh a bit too gruesome
Yeah.
around the edges. You can easily fix that. It's a couple
I
of
don't think we're gonna censor anything here, but
just do a search in your Word doc for kids and swap it with elves and it's a go basically.
Uh,
It
I don't know. I'm pretty
killed a
attached to
bunch
the whole
of
dead kid.
elves. A bunch of dead elves, though, is like, oh, okay, well, that's like Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. No problem. We can do that.
What I think we really should do is have more dead kids. I think really this is resulting in a lack of death in the child population. So I think this is inspiring me to up the body count of dead kids. Just to be clear, there are no dead kids in the game. It's just referenced in the story, so you don't actually see dead kids, but you hear about it.
Yeah, I think, I get the sensationalism and, overly graphic violence, and I get it. I get it. This is what the kids want. So makes
The
perfect
kids
sense to me.
crave death.
Do you have any more screenshots, though? Because I would love to see.
Yeah, let me just hold up. I'll take another
Pretty
one. I'm
cool.
just taking these right now. Like they're just doing it live.
How
So.
long is the level? How long does it take
Well,
to
there's
play? Is it
there's
like a
15 levels. So
and I gotta find my way? There's no like, well, you'll be there. You'll be playing. So I'm basically just your
well, I'll be there. So if you get lost, I'll tell you where to go. That's no problem.
but we're on separate screens, but I can see you. I'm just trying to figure out how games work.
Well, yeah, we'll figure this out. We'll figure that out
Okay.
in
Well, it
time.
sounds interesting. I'm looking forward to it. I am a little well, no, I'm not nervous because if I frustrate you and you start yelling at me,
Oh,
that'll
you won't
be
frustrate me. Don't worry.
very entertaining. I think people want to see that content.
I got you another screenshot.
Okay.
I've shot the screen just for you. You're gonna like this one. This is an action photo.
Oh wow. Oh, wow. This is gonna be wild. Okay, hold on. Let me just navigate to where it's saved. Um, here we go. Cool. Is that so double barrel, right? Now who's this person? Is that us? Is this the main player
Hey, that's Doom
right here?
Guy. That's his
Oh,
name. His
okay.
name is Doom Guy. Yeah.
I like that it looks like he has a little blood on his face. I didn't see
Yep,
that
the more
last time.
damage you take, the more fucked up he gets, and his hair also gets sweatier, if you notice too.
Oh,
Okay, so
okay.
is this Santa's workshop or are we in some is this like an underpass? Where are we here?
This is some location. It'll make sense when you play the game. I don't want to spoil necessarily like the ins and outs of the specific locations, but this is
Oh,
like,
okay.
this is somewhere. It's not necessarily the workshop, but it's a workshop.
So if I see anything Christmas related, I could probably just point and shoot, right?
Sure, yeah. Anything that even looks remotely happy, fuck it up as
Yeah.
far as I'm concerned. Yeah.
There's no one like you can't accidentally shoot somebody by
No, that
mistake.
does not
Like
exist in Doom. No. Everything on
you,
screen is there to kill you and for you to kill them, so
now,
that's why
are
it's so
you
good.
gonna turn around and shoot me at some point? Is that a thing?
Well, I'm probably not gonna be playing with you. I'm just gonna be sitting here talking to you while you play.
We're not both gonna be in the game.
Setting up co-op is a nightmare, and you're on Mac.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't
once again,
that's like
never held me
triples
back.
the workload.
Mhm.
Check this out. So I was watching some, what was it? I was watching some video. I never do this, but for some reason I was watching something at like 2x, right? I never watch videos that way because it always sounds like a Ben Shapiro video to me, and it's way too fast, and I just cannot focus. But whatever it was, I don't know why I'm spacing what it was, but anyway, I was listening to it super fast, and it was on YouTube. And when the video was over, a clip I had made from this Left Past 10 came up, and it was you talking. It was us talking about this gaming thing, and listening to it on 2x. I was laughing so hard. Like, I'm sure anybody else would hear it and be like, "Why is this that funny?" I was dying. I listened to it a few times. Like, I got a couple of views out of it just for myself because it
Yeah,
sounded so
sometimes I
funny.
watch my own videos on 2x and like also
Oh,
0.25x just from, because it's just fun. I want to know what I
you
sound
can go
like when I'm
slow?
modified.
What's
Yeah, you can go
0.25?
downwards. Yeah, 0.25.
Oh, I accidentally did that one time. That's what it was. This has been driving me nuts. Okay.
Oh no.
So one night,
Boomer
right before
alert.
we
Boomer alert.
totally right before we went live, Jake was on here, and I was like, "Jake, my voice sounds really weird in the video I just recorded. Were you watching live?" And he's like, "Yeah, it sounded fine." I was like, "Oh, okay, good." But that's what it was. I must have anyway. Good to know. I'll go back and watch a bunch. Slow down. We used to do that with a record manually, like where you would just let it go slow. Anyway, well, it was fun hanging out with you guys.
Uh-oh. We're about to get censored here, Antonio. Brace for impact.
The end of the show is not censoring, and some of us have our own channel where you can just be on anytime you want, whenever you want, and people actually ask for you to be on a lot. Andrea, remember, I used to watch Andrea's show every day of the week. I really miss that.
Well, I will say I will do a daily show again at some point in the future, but I'm a little, to prevent myself from burning out completely, I got to change it now and then.
I get it. No, it's fine. I'm just giving you shit. KCat 199 sending my super chat before the end of the show. Just squeaked by. No, they
Cuz
sent that a while
fucking
ago.
Letter Hack is all about like, y'all better see this show. Like maybe one day I'll get like a fucking hot mic, secret recording. After the show's over, Letter Hack's constantly like, "Oh, we only made fucking $10 today. We got to really pump up the
I'll
numbers
do
next
that.
week." This motherfucker was
I
like the
never
other
do
day, I
that.
swear to God, I swear on my dead mother that this motherfucker
What?
came on like 5 minutes after the show ended. Can you believe we only got $20 in super chats? Like, and and I was like, what? What am I listening to? This is some
People know
crazy
that's
ass
not
shit.
true. People
No, they
know
don't know
that's not
anything.
true.
They don't know what's going on at all.
It's such a lie. Plus, I think we got way more than $20 in super chats that night. So that is such a
Yeah,
lie.
but you're gonna be upset after tonight's show because we only got
I'm the
$2.
guy. I post a
We're down
graphic
90%.
because I'm supposed to, according to YouTube, I'm supposed to tell people to send in super chats. So I will every now and then post a graphic going, you don't have to, but if you wanted to, the channel now accepts super chats. So that's me money grubbing. That's me fleecing the audience. I'm saying you don't have
This
to, but if you
fucking
wanted to,
bastard.
But
anyway.
see, that's your trick, Matt. It makes them feel like, oh, he doesn't really want it. Doesn't really want
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
all manipulation, going full Henry Kissinger on this audience. Oh God. Oh.
KCat 999. Okay, Merry Christmas, you weirdos. That's awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah, and then later I'll be like, $9.99, really? Give me
You
one
couldn't
heck
have
of a
just done
Christmas for $10.
$10, like, come on now, $9.99. Like, was you really so goddamn stingy? One extra penny was just so much, you just couldn't fucking do it. Give me a
I
break.
really, really appreciate it. Look, Andrea has guilted everyone into contributing now.
I have
Thanks
done the
for the
opposite of
super
I
sticker.
have done the exact opposite of that. Personally, I think anyone contributing dollars to this fucking operation needs a fucking head exam. That's
For
just
the
my
dead
opinion.
kids in
Yeah,
the game.
look at this one from 0PE. Oh my goodness.
Well, I mean, thank you. I will be putting those $2 directly into the dead kid budget, and I will not elaborate.
I'm personally going to take care of Santa for that shit. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm gonna I'm doing this one for the kids.
Oh no.
Okay, well, thank you for hanging out, you guys. Next week, Sandy will be back. Jake, in theory, will be back. And we will have
We'll just
another
replace
guest.
Jake with Antonio,
We could do that. It's up to you,
slowly
Antonio. If we
phase
could do
Jake
that.
out.
We will have another guest next week, but Antonio, it's always a pleasure to hang out with you. And I mean, you're welcome anytime. So, just you could always just let
Absolutely.
us know if you want to hang out. It's a done deal. Anybody want to plug anything? Got anything going on? Anything coming up? Anything worth talking about?
Still writing
Got
my
a video
book.
Friday?
Oh, you're
What'd you
writing a
say?
book. That's great.
Oh, yeah, right. I mean, do you have a publisher lined up?
I have a couple of publishers that some professors of mine sent me. So not one in particular, but at least three that I'm looking at.
That's great. Good. Okay, cool. Well, I look forward to reading it. I want to thank the audience for hanging out. I will have a show Friday, 10 p.m. Eastern. It's part 4 for Here and How. And then, speaking of books, I'm reading my amateur novellas, like live. People actually like it. And then Monday, Professor Harvey K will be on the show. So I'm not
Goddamn.
sweating it either. Okay. And go back and listen to my interview from earlier tonight with movies versus capitalism. I had both of the hosts of that podcast, Rivka and Frank, on. It was fantastic. Talking about movies and, you guessed it, capitalism. Okay. So the show's officially over, you guys. I'm going to end it now. Just a heads up.
Please do not end the show while I am about to go on another rant about Israel.